I mean, they're really not supposed to be putting that much garlic on it.
I mean,
But like, why? Is this like Mr. Domino says, hey, garlic's expensive.
You mean, sorry, hey,
That is part of it.
Mr. D.
Mr. D.
Mr. D.
Mr. Domino.
See, no, this to be discreet. Mr. D.
Oh, true. Mr.
Discretion.
D.
Mr. D appreciates your discretion.
I mean, part of it is the cost of the garlic oil, because if you use too much of it, then that just means you're gonna buy more when you don't need to use that much.
Oh, and I had some of them left over, like that I didn't eat in the first sitting, and they were ones that had sat in the fridge overnight and just really soaked in the sauce. Man, I ate them because I bought them. But
You were disgusting.
oh, I felt like
You're a sick man.
an actual trash bin.
I did have a slice of the leftover pizza like the next day for breakfast, and I really should not have eaten it. I really regret it, and I think I've had indigestion since that day.
Yeah. Well, it says you're 25 now. You're too old for.
Yeah, you can't just go around eating Domino's pizza. Eat pizza.
You can't go around eating Papa D's pizza.
If you got a stomach ache from the hand tossed pizza, then the thin crust might be the way to go, because that's a much lighter.
This here's the thing.
It's less hard on the stomach.
I would always
got oregano.
When we live together, I would try to order thin crust pizza because I'm actually a thin crust fan. And this man,
Wait, what? You are?
yeah, I love thin crust.
We never ordered thin crust pizza.
I swear to God, I feel like I would preposition it, and you would just be like, "No, we paying for this? When we get our money's worth, you get the full thick crust. Get the full crust, because we're getting our money's worth out of this pizza if we're paying for it. I'm not getting thin crust. I'm just gonna want to eat
That's
more
exactly
slices."
what I was just thinking.
Yeah,
But you gotta realize that hand tossed crust can be a little hard on the tummy if you eat a lot of it. Whereas the thin crust, you don't feel as bad after eating it, just because it's lighter.
Yeah, but
on your little tummy.
I feel bad eating it because I paid the same price that I would have for the regular crust, which is more. So I'm paying the same for less, which means I'm paying more than I need to. Anyway, what's up, Internet, and welcome to your Obligatory Movie Podcast, a stereotypical show where three 20-somethings come together to record themselves talk about movies as a flimsy excuse to talk to each other. As always, I am your buddy, friend, your pal, your chauffeur, John Romo, and I'm joined by the Chippendale Cinema, Taylor Dvorsky, and Trace Silver. How you doing, Trace?
I'm doing good, Jay. How are you doing? The second week in a row that Taylor just gets the short end of the stick.
yeah. No one cares. By the way, you should. It's a 220 somethings and one now officially mid 20 something.
Oh, fuck.
Oh yeah, we got to celebrate Jay's birthday this week.
We can only possibly do this show for 5 more years, then it has to stop.
We kind of really screwed ourselves with the fucking tagline, huh?
Yeah, I can't change it because, like, when I hit 30, a stereotypical show where two 20-somethings and their 30-year-old friend come together and, like,
And this 220 somethings and this fucking old.
Well, and then when Taylor turns 30 soon after, and so I won't turn 30 for another 4 years, and then it's just a stereotypical show with two 30-somethings and this child that they talk to.
Well, here's the thing. That's fine, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But since Jay turns 31st, I just respectfully would like us to change the tagline to 220-somethings and this pervert.
That works for me.
Okay, I will agree to that tagline if we're actually recording this show in 5 years.
If we manage to keep the show going for that long, then yes, we can do the tagline.
But anyway, as I'm sure you know, because you gotta by now, this is a show where each of us, Taylor, Trace, and Jay, that's me, come together to just talk about the movies we've been watching. But each week, the real meat of the show is in the second half. That's when we dive deep, like bone deep, into one particular film. And this week, it was Drive.
Yes.
It was Drive. That is the movie we all watched this week.
That's correct.
You remembered. I thought in your old age you might forget what movie we watched, but you remembered.
I could never forget Drive. And the crux of this show is that each week's film has to be tangentially related to the previous week's film, and so on and so forth, until we've built our own little beautiful web of cinema. Drive was related to last week's film of John Wick by the stunt coordinator, by the stuntman who plays Ryan Gosling. He also plays Keanu Reeves in John Wick.
Stunt double. He's not
Stunt
just playing.
Yes. John Wick's full name is Jonathan Wickerson.
Is it actually?
And Ryan Gosling's full name in this movie is Driver McDriverson.
Driver McDriverson. But before we dive into this little first hand of shenanigans, as if we haven't already started that, Trace, what are we watching next week?
Full disclosure, as these two already know, because they had to sit and watch me try to find a movie that was tangentially related to this movie very quickly, because I forgot to do it before we got on mic with each other. So, very quickly, me and my girlfriend came up with 2 options for y'all. The first one, they're both related by cast members. So, Joe Bucaro III is credited as chauffeur. And he also has
Name me
a part.
a scene in the movie. Tell me where he is in this movie.
The scene where Ryan Gosling has a chauffeur. He's in Jon Favreau's 2005 adventure, ZATHURA, a space adventure.
This was definitely Trace's pick. That's absolutely Trace's pick.
Wait. And so I do like that movie. So that's one of your options. And then the second option is all the way at the bottom of the cast list, at the very, very bottom. Laureen Landon, who is credited as actress. Actually, she's not credited. It says uncredited. She's actress.
Yeah.
And she was in the 1988 motion picture Maniac Cop, which I believe it looks like Taylor has seen.
Yes, I have seen Maniac Cop.
Yes.
I thought you've just seen the second one.
I have seen the first 2.
Are there multiple?
There are 3 at least.
It looks like there's at least 2. But I looked at that and I saw that Bruce Campbell was in it and it looks sleazy. So that's why I chose that one. So those are your options.
I'm sorry, what was the first option? Oh, ZATHURA.
ZATHURA,
We
a
had
space adventure.
so many options. That's the most frustrating part of this show when it's not my week to pick, is that there's so many good options, but then we don't get any of them. We get ZATHURA and Maniac Cop.
What's wrong with ZATHURA?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
Exactly.
I've seen both of these movies. Jay, you haven't seen either of these movies, I would guess. And Trace, have you seen Maniac Cop?
I haven't seen Maniac Cop.
I picked ZATHURA just because it gives me a lot.
Okay, Trace, you go. I'll be the tiebreaker because I've seen them both.
Well, the thing is that I picked one of these movies and my girlfriend picked
fuck,
one.
that's true. Oh, duh. Okay. Well, fuck. You're gonna have to be a tiebreaker then because I'm choosing Maniac Cop.
Oh, god damn it. What's weird about this is I kind of like her pick too, so I don't know which one to pick.
She picks ZATHURA because she doesn't know what Maniac Cop is.
She definitely, she picks ZATHURA.
Oh, damn. Well, I just know that you actually liked ZATHURA quite a bit, Trace.
What? Wait, why do you assume she doesn't know what Maniac Cop is, Jay?
Yeah, Jay, what are you doing?
Because not many people know what Maniac Cop is.
That's a fair assumption, actually. I'm gonna pick ZATHURA.
Yeah.
ZATHURA? Okay.
We could do Iron Man, we could do Jumanji, we could do Chef, which means we could do Ratatouille after we do Chef.
We could do Chef. We could also do Bridge to Terabithia.
We could do the Hunger Games. We could do the
RV.
We could do the entire first season of Future Man on Hulu.
Hell yeah! I already talked about that show on a podcast before.
What?
Never mind.
Well, there you have it, folks. We're watching ZATHURA next week. We hope you will too.
It's of the same artistic integrity as Drive.
Jon Favreau is a great director. Oh, we could do Jungle Book. I've never seen Jungle Book.
Wait.
That's his, right?
Wait a second.
The new one, yes.
Oh, never mind. I was thinking of The Lion King. I was like, wait, isn't Jon Favreau in another Jungle Book thing? But that's The Lion King. Never mind. So here we are.
All right.
All gathered around
this metaphorical campfire to talk about what we've been watching. Taylor and Trace, because I've watched one movie. Because this is my birthday week, and you know what I wanted to do on my birthday week? Eat food. And that's kind of all I did. I ate a lot of food.
How was your birthday, by the way?
It's pretty good. I got a 24 diner, so I had chicken and waffles. That shit pops off.
even though you turned 25.
Even though I turned... Oh, shit. Damn.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that for the last time.
For the last time, you're right. I got a gift card for Allbirds and Outdoor Voices. I got my Alamo Drafthouse free ticket. Gonna go see Halloween this weekend. Woo woo. And gonna go to a coffee cupping class. I'm really excited about that.
What?
A what?
It's like a kind of a class to see how people cup different types of coffees and to like taste them. Like, it's fancy.
That sounds fun.
I'm gonna be a barista. It's my dream.
That's
How artisanal of you.
Latte art, folks, coming at you.
I'm really confused by this class.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
I don't know. What do you mean by like? You mean like doing like a lot like different kinds of pouring,
Yeah,
specialty ways? Just the word cupping is weird to me.
well, like the
It's
way
just a weird word.
the way that the coffee gets cupped in the cup, with art and shit.
It's the way you pour the coffee.
No, I'm not. At least I hope not. I think
So you're
someone else
gonna watch
might.
people pour coffee. Did you pay for this class?
No, Alexandra did. I'm excited. Oh, I also got a coffee magazine. I like coffee.
I'm going to need an update on this class next time we do this. When's the class?
Saturday.
All right, good. Next week, I want to hear all about
I
it.
need to know what you're doing in that class. Yeah, I need to learn about it.
I don't understand what's happening.
It just sounds like you're going to a Starbucks and somehow she got roped into paying a lot more for that opportunity.
No, it's like fancy and fun.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so coffee cupping. Here's the description, folks. Learn to taste like a professional. Cupping style tasting involves lots of slurping with spoons. You'll distinguish differences in aroma, body, sweetness, and acidity. Includes 10% off retail bagged coffee. It's a 1-hour class. It's like intro to being a coffee snob, I suppose.
Is that a new... Where is it? What's the place called?
Greater Goods Coffee. Everyone should check them out, especially if you're in Austin. When you buy stuff, like if you buy their beans in store too, they donate to different charities based on the beans you buy. There's one of the bags that when you buy it, it donates to Austin Pets Alive, which is where I got my little puppy. So
Sounds dumb. Taylor, what you been watching? I'm so sorry, Jay.
it's fine.
Oh no, he's so excited, and we're just.
I mean, we just did take a giant dump right in his coffee cup of excitement.
Jay, I can't wait to hear about what happens at your coffee class.
You'll be sure to hear it next week. Tune in.
Taylor, what you been watching?
I watched Pieces, the movie that Trace talked about last week. So, I don't have too much additional to add on this one, other than to say that I also greatly enjoyed it. I love that this movie is just completely fucking bonkers, and it's really bonkers in the best way. I really want to see this with an actual audience one day, because I enjoyed this a lot just watching it by myself, and so I feel like with an audience, this thing rips. Another thing that I just want to talk about is I just really, really like Euro Horror's commitment to the dialogue dub.
I love it. That's my favorite aspect of it.
I just really love the commitment, especially because I've noticed, I noticed with this one too, that there aren't that many like close up on face scenes of like where you're really watching like two characters converse, but there are, when they do occur, man, it's just so very off.
It is so hilariously bad. Bad, but like it adds to the charm of the movie.
It's just, it's just this culmination of like a lot of absurd stuff that just really comes together to just really work. Also, I found out, reading the IMDb trivia, that the Bruce Lee cameo, that is not actually Bruce Lee. That's a Bruce Lee impersonator that the producer of the movie had worked with on Asian action films.
What?
That they brought together just to do a cameo in this movie that served no context.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
So it's absolutely fucking absurd.
I literally just thought it was Bruce Lee and looked no further into it.
No, it's the actor is the impersonator who goes by Bruce Lee with one E, so just L-E instead of L-E-E. Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. I love it.
It's great. This movie's a lot of fun. Super over the top, super absurd, and gets real gnarly.
It does get really. There's some good kills in it.
There really are.
It's pretty gory. Also, the end is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, the immediate end. Oh boy, that was yeah. That's good.
Yeah, good watch.
Good watch. Jay, you gotta watch this next week so that we can have completed this trifecta.
It was really on my list this entire week. So were the other two movies that you both watched. Like, I really wanted to see them. I just never got to it. I don't know what made me choose the film I watched, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Well, wait. Where'd Trace go?
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
We were supposed to vamp. What were you talking about? He said keep rolling.
No.
Yeah, I did this to make sure y'all kept going.
Oh, we were still going, but I just thought, because it makes sense for you to go next since you're the only other person that has seen something that no one else has. So it didn't make sense for us to launch into the stuff that we've both seen, because then...
Well, now everyone knows I was gone.
Yeah.
Damn, Taylor.
It's supposed to be a secret. All right, guys. I watched several films this week. Made it out to the movie theater a couple times. And the first movie I saw at the theater... Well, actually, you know what?
She's out of my league. It was recently re-released for its 10th anniversary.
Repertory favorite. She's out of my league.
Caught it at the Rep Cinema. Saw She's Out of My League starring Jay Baruchel. And what's her name? Alice Eve.
Alice Eve.
I have literally nothing to say about this movie. I don't know what to say about it. It's
a perfectly fine throwaway rom-com.
Yep.
Hold on. Two things. One, when I think about this movie, I think about how J.J. Abrams made Alice Eve strip down to her underwear in the second Star Trek movie for no fucking reason at all, just because he wanted her to do it, or whoever was the director of that second Star Trek movie. It's always really bothered me. I don't know why he did that. It seemed kind of cheap, but it also seemed like he was a big fan of She's Out of My League when he decided to do that. Two, that moment when they have the Hall & Oates cover band, because your kiss is on my list. I sing that song a lot, like just at work in my head because of this movie, and I'm always imagining the scene play out. Someone screams for them to... Oh, also, this week I saw in the car, The Strangers, or like the album The Strangers was like on the radio, and I go, oh, is that what that guy was screaming for in that scene? He wanted them to play something off that album? And then... Wait,
is someone screaming in that scene? I don't even remember.
This movie... Jay holds a lot of reverence for this film.
I remember a lot about it. Yeah, in that scene, someone's like, yeah, I'll play something from The Strangers. And the guy who plays Deadpool's friend goes, hey, this is a Hall & Oates cover band. We're strictly playing Hall & Oates. So...
I do remember seeing trailers for this movie in 2010 when I wasn't old enough to see it in theaters. I was like, man, I wish I was cool and old so I could see movies like that. Just something I remember.
I like Jay Baruchel. You don't really see him in much these days.
No, you really don't. What happened?
He's behind the scenes. He's directing or something. Also, Jessica Jones is in this movie.
Yeah, she is. I also realized, like, man, I really don't see Kristen Ritter in that much stuff, but then I realized it's because I don't watch a lot of TV.
Yeah. The Bee in Apartment 23, you ain't a big fan?
I've never watched it.
Let's say it's your fault, not hers. She's working hard. You're ignoring her.
She's on her grind. So I also saw Bad Times at the El Royale, the new Drew Goddard movie.
Why is this not good? People keep saying it's not good, and I really wanted to see it.
Yeah, I also wanted to see this, and then I was disappointed to see not great reviews, and then I lost urge to see it.
It's just a really frustrating movie. I think it tries to have this really interesting and like cool sense of style about itself, but I think it comes off as really just obvious and like kind of broad and meandering really. It's too long, first of all. It's way too long.
It's like 220, right?
Yeah, it's like 220. This should have been about an hour 40. I will say the first 30 minutes had me, and then something happens, and the movie just loses itself from there. There's so many interesting plot threads and ideas that are set up in the first 30 minutes that after one character, the best character of the movie, goes away, they just get completely dropped in favor of focusing on other things that aren't as interesting and don't really serve like any meaningful purpose to the narrative or to the thematics of the story. Like, I really wish this was about an hour 40 and focused on, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but focused on the most interesting character of the movie, which I feel like anyone that has seen the movie or sees the movie knows who the best character in it is, and are probably similarly upset that they go away so quickly and are in it so briefly.
What is their name? Rhyme with?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask how much shirtless Chris Hemsworth do we get in this movie? Because the way he sways in that trailer, I love, and I just want to see that on a big screen.
Well, to answer Taylor, his name rhymes with Juan Ram, and about Chris Hemsworth, you did get quite a bit of shirtless Chris Hemsworth, but I was about to get into Chris Hemsworth's entire presence in this movie, and that I feel like he should not have been in this movie at all, and his character should have been cut completely. The whole scenario and plot surrounding his character, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why it's in the movie. I don't understand how this was the most interesting way that Drew Goddard decided to take this movie. It's hard to talk about without getting into like plot specifics and like talking about directions the movie goes in regards to like where it was at the beginning. But basically, I feel like the movie just really loses focus on what it wants to be and what it wants to be about. But I didn't really understand what I was supposed to get out of this movie after I left the theater. Like, I didn't understand what this was supposed to give me. There's a few cool sequences, but even those sequences feel like they're just ripping off Tarantino. This really does feel like a B-rate Tarantino movie. And I don't know, it just kind of sucks.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's just like, it has this like it carries like this like almost swagger about itself, but that it doesn't deserve because it doesn't earn it. I'd be interested for one of you guys to watch it so you could kind of understand better what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I wanted to see it, and then it just didn't. Even though I'd heard lackluster reviews, I still was planning to see it, and that just didn't get to pan out.
Yeah, that's about all I saw that someone's here did not also see.
Yeah, from this point, I believe it's well, at least we have two movies that Trace and I both saw, and then one movie that all three of us saw. So I guess let's go into the stuff that Trace and I saw. First was the new Netflix film, the new film from Gareth Evans, Apostle, starring our boy Dan Stevens.
I wanted to see this so bad.
And Michael Sheen.
How is it, boys? How's Dan doing?
Taylor, you can go ahead. You seem eager.
I mean, I think we have somewhat similar thoughts on this one. So this movie tells the story of a guy played by Dan Stevens who goes to this mysterious island populated by this religious cult led by Michael Sheen to find his sister, who they believe has been kidnapped by the cult, or who has been kidnapped by the cult. From there, he starts to kind of see more of the ideals behind the cult and what drives them and motivates them, and then some violent shit starts to happen. Some real nasty stuff.
Yep.
Again, kind of riffing off what the same thing Trace was saying about Bad Times at the El Royale. This thing's way too long. Mm-hmm. This one runs about 2 hours and 10 minutes. And this would have been a really, really solid 90-minute film. Maybe hour 40 max.
It really would have.
But the problem with this is that, or one of the bigger issues with this, is that the first hour of this movie is just kind of boring.
Yeah, the first hour is pretty rough.
Like, the first hour is just not very interesting. It's not very engaging. Like, the movie looks good, has good production value, but it's just the first hour of the film. It's just not terribly interesting. A handful of maybe somewhat unsettling moments. Really, it just takes a long time to really get going, which really hurts the film. Now, when it does kick into gear in like the back 45 minutes to an hour, and some of the more gnarly shit kind of starts to happen as the violent tendencies of the cult really become clear, and you kind of get more of a sense of what's going on. I would say I think it gets pretty interesting by that point, and I was just pretty pleasantly, I would say, I guess pleasantly affected by just how fucking gnarly the thing does get, because there is actually some pretty brutal gore here.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I had seen a lot of the complaints from people that were saying that the first hour was pretty boring, kind of tough to get through. And for the first 30 minutes, I was kind of like, well, no, this is pretty interesting. I kind of like where this is going. I kind of like the slow burn of it. But then the next 30 minutes go by and I realize this isn't, like, a lot of this isn't serving any real purpose for me.
No.
No. And, I do heavily agree that this really should have been a 90-minute kind of like, really kind of like full-on exploitation, like gruesome kind of like gore picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it like the gore, when the gore really hits this movie, it is very over the top.
Yeah, it gets pretty brutal in the last half hour, 45 minutes or so. Because for the once it hits the hour mark, I started liking it even before it got really violent. Because there's this section where it kind of just becomes like this supernatural, like a cult movie.
Yeah, and I was into it at that point as well.
Yeah, I was really digging it. I was really digging it once it became that movie, and then it's really like the last 45 minutes, 30 minutes or so, where it becomes kind of like almost kind of like a torture porn-ish kind of movie. Like think I don't know, anything like Saw or anything like that, where it's really getting off on like extreme violence and heavy amounts of gore. But it's like it's impressive and effective. Like it's and it's pretty fun in the last half of the movie, which kind of is a disconnect from the first half, which feels a little self-serious and brooding, which is part of why I started to not dig the first half as much, because it just feels pretty self-serious, and I don't think it really had to be that grim about itself.
It's very oppressively grim.
Yeah, that's really why I think the first half was kind of not working for me. Overall, I think it really just needed a more consistent tone throughout most of the movie. And I also think, like, in regards to the actual island and, like, the mechanics of what's actually going on in regards to the story.
Yeah.
It's presented kind of vaguely. I'm actually not sure, like, what exactly was happening with some of the stuff that was going on with the cult and what they were doing. But it was kind of a non-issue for me. Like, the basic premise of it and the basic ideas and imagery that was, that comes across through the second half, I think is enough for me personally.
Yeah, and I think that could have been, and again, I agree with you. It wasn't really bothering me too much, because I feel like by that point, the film really kind of almost goes into that full-on, what did you just sniff?
The sponge, because I smelled something really bad, and I thought it may be the sponge. But I also have my dog on my lap, so I thought maybe he was shitting on me or something.
Yeah, like the last 30 minutes, this movie really just like gear into that very almost exploitation mode. So it's just like, and I feel like if the whole movie, or if the movie had been shorter and just maybe fully leaned into that a little more, like it's even like would have been less bothersome that maybe the plot doesn't always make sense from a mechanic perspective, because it's just like, oh, this is just kind of absurd and over the top, and that's what this movie is.
Yeah. It's not even that it doesn't work, it's just that it's not explained.
Yeah, it's just very vague. It's just kind of like, this happened, and we're rolling with it. What do you think of Dan Stevens?
I thought he was really good. He's really given off some of his best faces in this movie. He really,
like, the Dan Stevens face game in this movie is it's something.
Yeah, his eyes are bugging out this whole fucking movie. It's insane.
That's a lot.
I think some of his dialogue maybe was not so great. I don't think it was him. I think it's the writing of the movie. I think a lot of the dialogue in the movie isn't too grand. But it didn't bother me too much once the movie kind of settled into what it is for the remaining, like, back half of the movie. Yeah. And I mean, generally for once it becomes that movie, I think it is a really respectable piece of, like, you know, high gore, like, genre fare, really.
Like the back half of it is a really fun genre film. It's just, like, really weighed down in the first half. That, again, like you said, it's just so self-serious and so grim that almost juxtaposes it from the finale, which gets so like over the top that you're just like, this is absurd.
It gets so weird.
Yeah.
Like, it just gets so crazy compared to how just dour and drab the first half is. And it's just kind of a disconnect
There's not
between
enough
the two.
mystery to really keep the flow going and really sustain that length.
Yeah,
of the film.
it's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Actually, I was pretty surprised by how upfront it was about everything that was going on.
Yeah, it doesn't like keep you in too much suspense in that regard.
Yeah.
So it really just does not justify the length, and that's the first half is really what hurts it.
It's really just too long.
Yeah, that's
really
just the
main
biggest
issue
problem with it. Yeah.
It's enjoyable though. It's a fun watch if you can bear that.
Yeah, if you have a stomach for the gore and you like, it's also wildly different from Gareth Evans' previous 2 hit films, the Raid films.
Yeah, it is. So wait, is he? What nationality is he? He
is he Irish or Scottish? I can't remember. Or is he Welsh? Is Welsh, which is...
Yeah, he speaks Welsh.
I don't know where that... Yeah, so he's that.
So, wait, what language were the Raid movies in?
Indonesian.
How did he direct those?
I mean...
Does he...
I have to imagine, probably.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It was just something interesting that I noticed. I didn't really ever realize that.
Have you seen VHS 2?
No.
Okay, because he does a segment. He does one of the short segments in that's about like a Vietnamese cult. I believe it's Vietnamese cult, and so that kind of was a little bit of a precursor to him making this kind of film. You can kind of see that coming. Which admittedly that almost sometimes works a little better than Apostle because it's a short form, just like you kind of have the very quick time to really just see shit go batshit insane.
Wait, actually, does that end with like a goat?
Maybe I can't remember.
Maybe I have seen VHS too.
I don't remember.
Does VHS 2 have like the alien segment?
Yes, it does.
Oh, I have seen VHS.
Then you probably have seen this, yeah. Because it also has the one where like Adam Wingard like gets the thing in his eye.
I don't remember that. But I think I have seen VHS 2 though.
The other film that Trace and I both saw this week was the new Damien Chazelle film starring Ryan Gosling, First Man.
The First Man. Before we went into this movie, I pointed at the moon and I said, "Hey, that's where you went." Watch the movie.
What'd you think of this thing?
This movie's really good. I really like this movie a lot. And I was interested going into it because I have a weird track record with Damien Chazelle, in which Whiplash was like my favorite movie of the year that it came out, and then I was really disappointed with La La Land and not care for it that much, and so I just didn't know what to really expect going into The First Man. But I really liked it. I really liked that it was just... I was surprised that it was just this really somber, sad, quiet, like, meditative look at basically just a guy, like, dealing with his sadness and just going to work, basically.
Yeah.
But also kind of looking at the landing on the moon as, like, the hardest shit in the world, really, to pull off.
Yeah.
Like, it's not so like romantic, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
It's a lot of scenes in space are from the view of the cockpit.
Yeah, which is like, I really liked that.
Yeah, and like deal with like are shot in like really heavy shaky cam and are really claustrophobic and kind of nauseating actually. Mm-hmm. And there's just like there's almost nothing like grand about the movie. Or
yeah, there's no like sweeping vistas or like really like elegant space photography that you get in something like a 2001, something like an Interstellar.
Yeah, no, it's all like really like close quarters, kind of gritty, and more personal view of just Neil, really.
Yeah,
of Neil as a person, and both in terms of like his home life and his personal life, but also when he's going into space and doing these things, it's treated very. I'm trying to think of the right word.
I mean, grounded.
It's just it's not celebrating. it.
No,
really.
it's really not. It's very de-romanticized. It's very just like, it really looks at the human, just the human side of this, the human toll that this took, and his process of trying to basically deal with grief.
Yeah.
And learning how to, or maybe not even learning how to communicate that effectively. Yeah, but I agree with you. As far as Damien Chazelle films go, I very much loved Whiplash, and I actually liked La La Land a lot the first time I saw it. And then I gave it a second watch, and my opinion kind of tapered a little bit on that one. For this one, I stand maybe like a notch below you. I can't say that I really thought this was really good, but I thought this was good. But I think that inherently for me comes a little bit just. Not a bias against biopics, but I feel like there's a ceiling of enjoyment I always have with biopics. And it's just a tough threshold for me. It's just not maybe my choice kind of like, just this movie. But I still like really, there was a lot I really liked about this, as far as, it was the style of narrative. What I liked so much about it is what you've kind of already talked about here, which is just the narrative style. How it like really takes this de-romanticized approach to space travel and this accomplishment, and really just looks at the humans behind it, the human focus and the human error that comes with it, the human loss and the struggle and everything that comes with this. And it's not really about this. It's not about grand space exploration, because you're right. Like a lot of the admittedly incredibly tense space sequences and like aerial sequences are in this very claustrophobic, like shot in a very claustrophobic, very contained setting. At times I was like, Jesus, why is this camera shaking so much? Like
it is very heavy.
There are some moments I was like, am I watching a Paul Greengrass film? Why is this so shaky? Like this is almost too shaky with this camera.
There are
work.
parts where he is just fucking.
It's wild, but I really did like the aerial sequences are really quite tense and very effective. And I don't know about you, but I actually did see this on an IMAX screen.
No.
And so the moon sequence, even though it is like, again, not this grandiose thing, keeping in the spirit with the rest of the movie, seeing it, there is still this sense of scope and accomplishment that you feel, when the moon landing happens. That's just really, the imagery of this film is top notch. Just looks great. It's got really good performances. I really like Ryan Gosling. I really like Claire Foy in this. They work really well together. All the performances, and this sounds detrimental, and maybe it is, I don't know, or something. But this really has this movie has a really good cast of white dudes. Sure does. There's a lot of really good white dudes in this thing. You got Ryan Gosling, you got Kyle Chandler, who I always love. You got Jason Clarke.
Yep.
Other really good. There's more good white dudes in this thing.
There's actually an
Abbott.
article on the Ringer ranking each of that guys. They said there's a lot of, hey, I know that guy in this movie, which sounds like Jason Clarke and Kyle Chandler to me.
There's a lot of these like really good white dudes that you've seen in movies, and you might not know their name off dome, but you know you've seen them in other stuff, and you're like, that's a good dude. There's a lot of that in this movie.
I love celebrating white men. What Taylor was saying about his opinion on biopics, I do think the biopic, like the traditionally biopic-y stuff in this, and especially some of the kind of the slower sections of this movie, were a little bit tedious.
It is a little. It's an overlong movie.
This one's I was about to say, I also think this movie's a little too long too. I think there's a lot of movies I think are just a little bit too long. But I mean, overall, I really like that this is kind of just like really like almost like just nuts and bolts, just like stripped down like human drama. And I think especially once it gets towards the end, and like especially the final sequence, I think there's like this really like kind of like really sad like emotional power beneath like the moon landing sequence and what happens during that scene. It's like, and it almost like really kind of undercuts like what's supposed to be this grand spectacle of them landing on the moon, and I think it works for that.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this in what I wrote on Letterboxd, that I think the final cut to credits is fantastic.
I think
I love
the final moment of the movie is incredibly effective.
Yeah, I love that final
was
cut. I thought
very
that was
well done.
Great.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I think I do think Claire Foy's character is a little thin.
For sure.
A little underutilized.
I don't disagree. I think her performance is good.
Yeah.
With what she
she's
has,
great.
but the character is...
It's very much like you've seen this in other biopics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dude that's kind of maybe what would you say not in over his head, but like he kind do you get what I'm saying?
A little bit.
Like I don't want to say in over his head, but he's kind of like I can't think of
Not
the
really out
phrasing
of his
for this.
depth. Like,
Up his own ass.
Sure.
he's so... Yeah, well,
He's so far up his own ass that he can't see
to an
his
extent.
dick.
Like, he's...
Yeah.
Like, he's so singularly focused on his work and this accomplishment.
And then, like, Claire Foy is the wife that's there to keep him grounded and there to keep him on the straight and narrow and there to be there for him when he needs her. And we've definitely seen this before. And there's not as much weight given to her character or as much depth as there definitely could have been. Which is unfortunate, but I mean, for everything else, I think this movie pulls off what it set out to achieve really well. I'd also like to mention that me and my girlfriend saw this with her grandparents, and her grandpa works at this plant where they shot some of this movie, and it's every time a scene at that place came up in the movie, her grandpa would yell, "That's the plant! That's the plant right there!" And he would get so excited.
I love that.
Even if it was just like a small snippet, he would be like, "Oh, that's the plant." So that was cute.
I just wanted to chime in since I haven't seen First Man. Really want to. And just say, I also love Whiplash. And I think La La Land's a good movie. Like, there's nothing wrong with La La Land. Other than the fact that, it's white people doing white people shit. And,
It's a very white
and that
people
year,
movie.
the Oscars was like, oh, we're going to pretend we don't love that. Sorry.
La La Land might be the whitest movie that's come out in a long time.
And the Oscars was like, oh, if we don't pick this one, they'll know we're not racist, right? And so they didn't pick that one. But they almost fucked up at the end. And they were like, no, wrong one.
No.
Guys, we talked about this beforehand. We're not racist this year. This was the year. We talked about this.
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. We got a lot of Rygos talk going on this week. But before we get to the main meat of the show, which includes Rygos, we all watched a movie this week. Yeah, what movie was that?
It's called Terrified, a Shudder original.
And Jay, you want to lead this one? Because this is the only thing you saw this week?
Oh, yeah. So this is a Argentinian movie, I believe. And it's about a trio of paranormal hunters, researchers, experts.
Ghost adventurers.
After a series of events in a neighborhood, they go in to investigate and kind of scope out the entire scene. And what do you know?
What?
Boo.
No way.
A lot of spooks ensue. Nah, I saw you guys' letterbox reviews, and you guys are like, "Oh, the beginning and ending sequences are really good, and the middle's just uninteresting." I gave it kind of the same score as you, but I'm still more tepid on it. Where it's like, I guess the hanging stuff at the beginning was pretty freaky, but even I was like, it's holding on to this too long that it's starting to break the illusion for me, and it does that a few times. So where I can, okay, this is a puppet, like I see it and it's broken it for me. So now I can't go back. And then I do agree though. A lot of the middle plot is like, okay, sure, this is happening. I actually think the most interesting bit is the person they don't spend that much time with. And it's, the guy who can't sleep because of things in his closet.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish that would have just been a sequence. I thought that's what the movie was going to be at the beginning, is, oh, these are going to be like short little sequences. Because I thought that would have been a cool idea. Like, we're working backwards until we get to the point where the experts are there for like their own little sequence.
Yeah, and like you're kind of seeing everything, like this neighborhood and like this state of like all these paranormal occurrences are happening to all these people. I kind of thought that's where it was going.
Yeah,
but
I thought that would have been interesting.
Too.
Yeah, because those two starting sequences are incredibly strong to me. Like, and I really would have. I was hoping that was kind of how it was going to be. It was like this kind of interesting connected anthology. And then after those first two sequences, and this is the problem that I think we all kind of had with it, is that it develops more of a plot, but it's not. It's not that it's even not necessarily that interesting, but I don't think there's enough meat to the bones of it. And also, it's just kind of confusingly plotted a little bit.
I was so fucking confused, honestly.
Like, yeah, it's just, a lot of it's just, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense at times.
It's just, the way it's, something about the way that it's edited. Like, there's weird time jumps that are implemented within the middle portion of the movie.
So you don't get a lot of cues towards, or any cues towards, maybe.
Yeah. And I was just, and I mean, honestly, I thought the plot was pretty fucking boring, honestly, and so that combined with these weird edit choices and these characters that I really did not care that much about, and just stuff that I didn't really care about what was happening in the movie in the middle portion. I was just like waiting, just like, okay, when are we gonna get to like some more good stuff?
Yeah. I gave it, I mean, my review of it's pretty generally favorable, and honestly, that a lot of that is because I really think that it starts and ends really strongly. I think obviously the middle is, by and large, meh, but I really think that it, like, those two first sequences honestly are great to me, and then once
me too.
Yeah, and then once the plot, like, finally really gets going into the final stretch, I think it gets back to some really, like, creepy atmosphere, some really unsettling scares. Like, that's what is really where the movie's working.
There is one. There are some really good scares in this movie. There is one incredible one that actually like scared the shit out of me, and it's that scene where he's in the window, the fucking wait, which window?
I'm thinking of the one of which he's like kind of going back and forth.
No, I know what Trace is talking about.
That was good too, but the one
where he gets in the car.
Yeah, and you just see it running at him through the car window immediately, like in the distance, but you can't really tell like what it looks like, or like you can tell something's wrong with it, or her, I guess. And then but you can't really tell. And then it just stays on the shot until she gets all the way to the car window, and it's fucking freaky as shit. And I love that scare. I thought that was so good. Yeah, like the
first and third acts of this are really fucking freaky to me, and that's I think why I think my review is still generally pretty favorable on it, is because it really scares really well, and that's sometimes tough, I think, for movies to like really get to me and affect me in such a way. And this one honestly did get under my skin with some of these scares and make me genuinely nervous. I genuinely agree with Jay. I would have been more interested to have this movie continue that like anthology feel that you kind of thought you were getting in the first two segments. Just it was like creepy to me and genuinely interesting to see like, oh, all this shit is going on in this neighborhood. And I wish it had kind of kept that instead of trying to introduce a proper plot that it then tried to still make not conventional, but that doesn't really work.
I will say, because the more I keep thinking about it, because you guys keep referring to the like latter half as being scary, I realize that the tone of the film is not conveyed strongly enough to me after like the kid gets hit with a bus, because it's almost, and I don't think they're playing it for this, but it comes across a little bit like a dark comedy, just because the cop is like, his facials are a little over exaggerated, and the old man is kind of playing this over the top kind of cop, or expert, and so I thought it was on the goofy side, and then the kid, they sit on him a little too long to take away any mystery, and you just start to realize the kind of goofy look on his face, and so I just could never really feel like, oh, this movie's trying to scare me, rather than it's like, it's just kind of being off kilter.
I mean, I honestly kind of think some of that might have been intentional. I think that there is meant to be some sort of off-kilter, kind of goofy dynamic to some of it, and a little absurdist. I think that maybe some of that gets lost in translation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
But yeah, I mean, I would recommend watching this movie.
I still fucking love the Shudder app, so just get it on Shudder.
I love Shudder. I mean, I guess I was mostly disappointed with this movie and my overall feelings, just because I saw a lot of good stuff coming out of a lot of good word of mouth coming in regards to it coming out of Fantastic Fest. Was that where it played at?
It has been playing festival circuit for a little bit now, actually.
I think it was I think I saw
you
people
probably
that
saw most, but yeah, from Fantastic because of our
yeah.
friends.
I think that's where I saw the most buzz from it. I saw people saying that it was really good and they were really impressed with it. So I guess I was mostly disappointed with it. But there are some really good sequences.
I do wonder how that plays in a theater.
That's what I was thinking. The scares would probably work better for me.
That's true too. God damn it! I wish. Like I hate movies like this where like this should have been seen in a theater. You're right.
That's true. It's kind of like a double-sided coin there. It's like, oh, I would love to see this in a theater, but like a place like Shudder is actually probably a really good home for this kind of movie.
Yeah,
and kind of the place that's really going to actually give it a a chance and some actual prime placement.
It should also be noted that I'm not really a big horror fan. I don't really like the genre very much. And I remember thinking after the first sequence, in which it was a bit scary, even though it did hang a bit long, I thought, I don't like to be scared. It's 10:30 and I want to go to sleep. I don't want to be scared. So I was mad at it for even trying.
This is my justification for the reason I need to build a home theater.
To watch the Shudder original Terrified in its full glory.
Maybe I'll like it then.
You didn't dislike it. You gave like a 3 out of 5.
No, I'm acting like I hated it or something.
Yeah.
But I guess I was expecting just more, just because I saw a lot of good things about it, and I was left mostly just kind of shrugging. But yeah,
I feel like I'm the one I feel like I'm the one who's the most favorable on it here.
I think you are too.
Hey, something that we're all pretty favorable on though. Drive.
Getting the fuck out of this segment.
We're going to drive right on out of here. But before we leave, I just want to put, if anyone has an opinion, Taylor is bugging about us putting a little intro music at the beginning because he doesn't like a cold open and he loves to waste Jay's time and make him edit more. So if you also like that idea, know 1, that I hate you, and 2, you should just let me know who you are so I can hate you personally. And also so I can do it. Mainly so if you tell me, I'll do it. Okay, cool? Ready? Hop in the car, guys. We're off to the second segment.
Put on your seatbelt.
If I drive for you,
You give me a time and a place. I give you a 5-minute window.
anything happens in that 5 minutes and I'm yours, no matter what. I don't sit in while you're running it down. I don't carry a gun. I drive.
And we're back talking Drive. 2011's Drive. Directed by Nicolas Winding Refn and starring Mr. Ryan Gosling, along with Carey Mulligan.
And Bryan Cranston. And Oscar Isaac in a brief role that I forgot he was in this movie.
I forget that.
For.
Yeah, I already forgot he was.
I completely forgot he was in this movie.
And also Albert Brooks and Christina Hendricks and Ron Perlman.
This is actually a stacked movie.
There's a lot of good cast in this thing.
What's going on in it, Taylor?
Well, you see, you've got Ryan Gosling, an unnamed driver who's credited as Driver, who is a LA, like a Hollywood stuntman who moonlights as a getaway driver. So basically, just any kind of robbery situation, any situation of crime that might require a getaway driver, he's your man. You get 5 minutes. Any time, any minute, any side of that, it's not his fault. Something like that. I don't remember his pitch.
He's like, you give me 5 minutes. Anything before or anything after that, you're on your own.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
I don't carry a gun. I don't
swallow.
I don't remember.
He does not swallow. That is one of his hard rules.
So
No
like,
eye contact.
so wait, like
No.
if you tried to like
Lights
get him-
off.
if you like tried to get him some juice, like he wouldn't swallow it.
Yep.
Yeah. He refuses to drink juice. All forms of juice. Man will not consume a cup of juice in this movie.
I don't carry a gun. I won't drink any juice you try to give me.
So don't do it. Don't try and give me juice. I've warned you already.
Don't ask me to stop at Smoothie King on the way.
But he meets and starts falling for his neighbor, played by Carey Mulligan. And after her husband, and starts taking care of kind of her and her young child. And after her husband, played by Oscar Isaac, gets out of jail, he agrees to help him with some debts that lead to things going wrong, which kind of puts him on this collision course where he has to try to save himself and her child from the bad guys, led by Ron Perlman.
Now I think this is a rewatch for all three of us, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I hadn't seen it since 2011.
Okay.
Same.
I think I saw it a few years after that, but
I saw it once in theaters, and this is my second watch.
Just real quick, were you guys at about the same level of enjoyment? Worse, better? How's it hold up?
So here's the main thing I remember about seeing it the first time.
Okay.
Is that, so I would say that enjoyment level holds up. I knew, and this is more of, so this movie, let's see, came out in 2011. I was 17. So I was like I think I was a senior in high school when this thing came out. I knew what I was getting into. I knew that this was supposed to be like this more like art house kind of commercial, like art house meets commercial, film that was violent, but kind of slower and had more, it was not an action film. And I knew this going in. And so I knew this and I knew I was going to like it. And I did. I liked it quite a bit. However, I had a couple friends that I also saw it with that hated it because they both thought that it was going to be like The Transporter.
Oh, I've heard about this. You told me this story. Can you name names? I just want to know for personal reasons.
It was Kyle and Garrett.
Okay.
Neither of them liked it because so I distinctly remember Kyle not liking it because he wanted it to be like The Transporter and he thought it was boring. Garrett was not a fan of how violent it gets.
Which, hold on,
Garrett was specifically turned off by the violence.
I will actually say I have some thoughts on that.
Okay.
I don't disagree inherently. Overall, I enjoyed a majority of it as much, if not more, this time around, because I think my experience with watching movies, I just watched them a different way than I did 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Wow.
But I did have more disconnects with it this time around. Namely, in that I think Gosling's character doesn't make as much sense in the first half of the movie if he's supposed to be building relationships. He doesn't talk to an almost laughable degree, in which case it's like a lot of conversations between people are primarily driven by them, and so it makes it also difficult for me to believe that he is falling in a relationship with Carey Mulligan, who is cute as a button in this movie, and her cute little baby boy too. The scene when he first sees the boy, he just kind of stares at him. And my wife pointed out multiple times, like, is he going to fucking talk to the kid? Is he going to do anything? Or is he just going to look at them? Because he's honestly coming across as a creeper right now.
I love the scene where the little boy is wearing the Halloween mask and Ryan Gosling just looks at him and he says, "Scary."
Yeah, there's a weird, it just made a weirder disconnect for me this time around, especially knowing he's supposed to be building relationships. And the gore in the second half is it feels like a style, like it's just trying to be stylish just because it wants to be stylish.
Well, not just, but it's very stylized.
But it doesn't feel like it's the same style that it was doing at the beginning. It feels like a style clash.
I disagree.
I disagree also.
I disagree because I think it's all part of the same style. I think what that's showing and what you're not expecting is someone as quiet and who seemingly is mild-mannered and reserved as Ryan Gosling's character, but he has this really intense penchant for violence.
He looks like a scared little bitch when it's all going down, though, so I guess it didn't feel like he had a penchant for violence.
I don't think he looks like a...
His eyes, maybe it's because he just looks like one naturally. Like, Ryan Gosling definitely ain't the type to throw down and get in some shit. Oscar Isaac may be, but it's not Ryan Gosling. So, when it happens, he does just seem kind of misplaced. in an interesting way, but just like the amount of blood that goes off, it was just kind of like, why is this happening all of a sudden? Not in a like terrible way, just in a like, I'm noticing it now.
I do kind of understand what Jay is saying, just because Ryan Gosling does look like a little boy for a lot of this movie.
He's got boyish charm. He's got a lot of boyish charm.
But something about that works for me. And just to backtrack a little, I saw this movie when it came out, and I had to be 13 or 14. So
that being, R, how are you watching this?
Shut up. I watched I watched it illegally online, I think.
Oh boy.
But I do remember, like, I knew what kind of movie it was still going into it. That being said, it probably, like, looking back on it, it probably did not do much for me at that age as it did for me now, which now watching it, I was surprised by how well this movie has aged. And honestly, I think this is kind of an almost perfect version of this kind of style of like auteur meets
commercial.
Commercial, like mainstream cinema.
Yeah.
Like this runs the perfect length, which is kind of a theme of what we've been talking about this episode. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but it's also not too short. It's an hour 40, 100 minutes. Perfect length for this type of movie. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. I think Ryan Gosling's character is great. I like that he's so quiet. Like I think it works for the movie. And I like that the movie feels like this weird kind of like dark kind of neon, almost like fantasy-esque, but it's like real and grounded, like in like a gritty sense of LA, if that makes sense. Like it feels like it almost feels like everything in this movie is not happening on this planet. Like none of these interactions should make any sense. Nothing any of these people are saying to each other would ever happen in real life. But something about that just works for the tone of the movie and for the style that Refn is going for with this. And it's why it works so well for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I pretty much wholly agree with Trace here. So this is the first Nicolas Winding Refn film I've seen, and I still actually have not seen anything of his prior to this. So I've only seen Drive, Only God Forgives, and The Neon Demon. And what I was kind of surprised to see this time around, that I haven't seen it since theatrical, but what I was surprised to realize is, like, especially coming off of seeing Only God Forgives and The Neon Demon, is how much of a balance this movie strikes between art house, but still very commercial, very wide release. It's like Trey said, I think it's like perfectly balanced in neither leaning in neither direction, which is interesting to me. I didn't really remember that since I've more recently seen his next two films, which are incredibly arty.
Yeah, they're way more leaning into, like,
yeah. What is he doing?
My pets are fucking shit up in the background. I'm so sorry. But Only God Forgives and The Neon Demon, are leaning way more into, like, the arty, almost pretentious-ish territory.
Yeah, but I'm wondering kind of if what aids it with this film is actually, is that Nicolas Winding Refn did not write the script for this movie.
Oh, he didn't? I didn't even realize.
No, this is not. He only directed this film.
I would think that keeps him from overindulging, because I think while Gosling's, and I do want to preface that, like, while I did complain a little bit at the beginning, I still think this movie fucking slaps, man. Like, it's a good fucking movie. But
no
it
one
just
would have thought that based off your previous description, where you started talking negatively and didn't stop talking negatively.
Well, that's my only problem with it. And it didn't bother me at the beginning. Maybe it's like, I think it's also because I'm watching it with my wife, and I watch movies a little bit differently when I'm watching with her, because she talks a little bit more. And so, like, we're just kind of joking around while we're watching it. And it's just something you notice, like, because it's just kind of weird. It's just kind of weird what he's doing. But I still think the movie is paced really well, because it is slow, but it never feels boring. It never drags. And I love that 100-minute runtime, where it's like, I don't remember enjoying anything about Only God Forgives. that movie's just boring. And it plods to plod.
I was gonna ask how y'all felt about Only God Forgives or the Neon Demon. If either of you saw one or both of those.
The Neon Demon is better. But
yeah, I don't really like. I don't really like Only God Forgives at all.
I remember not liking it, but I haven't seen it since it came out.
I do think that is normally I can be on the side of these kinds of movies, but I do think that movie is pretentious garbage.
Whoa.
I do. I really don't like Only God Forgives like any bit. The Neon Demon, I'm a little more forgiving on. I think that it's definitely flawed, but it has a lot going on aesthetically that I can very much be about. But I think that it's again, common complaint we've had throughout this episode. It's too long, and there's not enough going on for it to justify that length. And I think that it
There's that scene when the tiger comes in her apartment, though, and it's like this metaphor for something. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I had an interesting experience watching the Neon Demon in that I saw it completely by myself. Like, I went alone, and there was no one in the theater. So, it was a very interesting watch just to be in a theater by yourself watching that movie. And I think it did a little something for me, and I feel pretty favorably towards it, although I do realize it is pretty...
Was it a boner?
Yeah, I had a boner the entire time when I started jacking off.
Oh, gross. Gross, you took that far.
But I do...
Did you finish before or after the necrophilia scene?
During.
Or during?
During. But I do realize that movie is flawed, and Drive is far and away Nicolas Winding Refn's best movie that I've seen of his, at least. And I think it's interesting that it does combine those, that arty and the mainstream sensibilities, and that I remember when this movie came out, people being upset going to see it, that it wasn't what they were expecting. But that if you showed this movie to someone who didn't watch movies like this, but kind of like prefaced it and told them what they were getting into, they would probably find something to enjoy in it if they knew what they were getting into. Like, I think there's plenty in this movie for everybody to enjoy if they're in the right mindset for it. And I almost think it's like a good gateway movie into kind of this, the more arty realm of cinema, I guess.
I agree with that.
I think the characters are the reason that balance is there, because I don't think any character besides Gosling is really the art house part. It seems like Carey Mulligan, Oscar Isaac, Ron Perlman, like the rest of them are all just playing normal characters in a normal this kind of movie, and they're the commercial part, whereas Gosling is the one that's like being kind of, just introspective, being quiet, being out of place at times. And I think that's like why the movie is able to do that. Whereas there aren't characters like Oscar Isaac in The Neon Demon or in Only God Forgives. And it kind of overindulges itself because it has no characters in its world to balance itself out.
Yeah, no, every character in those movies is Ryan Gosling in this movie. But I wanted to bring up that, like, this has all the elements of, like, kind of the prestige art house movie you would expect. Like, it has it has the music. Like, can we talk about the music real quick?
It's so good.
It slaps.
It's so good.
The soundtrack to this movie is incredible.
Which is kind of why I gave it the same score as, I think, Taylor. Even despite my I noticed that, but I also noticed the soundtrack fucking ripping in the background a lot more. So I was like, it's even trade for me.
Let's see, just the music was done by Cliff Martinez, like the actual score components, who, let's see, what else is this man? I know plenty of movies that this man has scored. Actually, I'm a little disappointed that, we had a perfect opportunity to talk about the modern masterpiece that is Spring Breakers, next week, because he did score that film.
I'm always interested in watching that movie that I've had conflicted thoughts on every single time I watch it.
Honestly, we had a lot of good opportunities with Cliff Martinez scores. He actually also scored The Neon Demon. He did also score Only God Forgives. We could have really kept the Winding Refn train going here. The boy scored Hotel Artemis, that movie no one talks about from this year.
I would have loved to watch that movie.
I saw that movie in a theater.
Why?
Because, I don't know.
I think this is the most anyone has said Hotel Artemis in the span of 2 minutes ever.
It's almost insulting how forgettable that movie is with the cast it has.
I thought about that movie when we were watching John Wick, and I could not remember what it was. And didn't it only come out like last year?
It came out this year.
It came out like this summer. Yeah, that movie, that distribution company, Global Road, actually went bankrupt. That movie was one of the reasons they went bankrupt, because they ended up like $20 million in the hole.
Holy shit!
But but the music in this is very good. Cliff Martinez's score is great, and you've got a lot of good chromatics material.
Well, he did Game Night, guys.
He did do Game Night.
He did do Game Night, which is that movie's really good.
Just a delight.
That movie's delightful. But you also got a lot of music from the chromatics in this film, and they're good.
Yeah,
they're good band.
The music in this movie just fucking slaps all the way through. I was jamming the entire movie, and then combined with the visuals, like this movie's just a treat to look at and to listen to. I would have loved to have been able to see this in a theater, or like if I ever had the opportunity to see it in a theater, I would do it in a heartbeat. It's a
good theatrical watch. So I guess we can kind of talk about this a little bit. The violence in the latter half, because Jay seems to be a little more opposed to it. I think
not opposed to it. I'm not like against violence in a movie. I'm just saying that the way I saw it, as in the first half of the movie, Gosling's not talking like almost at all, to a point where it seems unrealistic that he's building any sort of relationship with these people, when that is the driving crux of the movie, that he's supposed to be building a relationship with Carey Mulligan. And then in the latter half, he starts to talk more, like especially once Oscar Isaac's character is in the picture. He's talking a bit more. He seems actually friendly and not like a murderer. And so then when the movie just makes him a murderer, but it's not even him killing. That's not the part that bothers me. It's the amount of blood that comes out of every orifice is like, it just feels a bit out of place, like a bit too much blood. Then it becomes, and maybe it's just because it is so somber and so kind of slow paced, and I'm not expecting genre flick levels of blood all of a sudden.
I mean, for me, that's kind of what works about it, as it is just like this like surprise of like, you're not really expecting that. You kind of know that there's this. You sense there's this slow building, slow simmering kind of sense of unease, and you know obviously something's going wrong. So then when the violence really kicks, when it hits, it's explosive, and I personally am a fan of that. I'm actually, and admittedly, this like is almost exaggerated, and like it's very exaggerated to like, and I think it's more that like arty exaggeration of leaning in almost like genre at the same time. But I'm actually quite a fan of movies that do this kind of stuff where like the violence isn't frequent, but when it hits, it's brutal, because I think that that's just a really effective way to display it for me. That's like why I really like Jeremy Saulnier's movies. Admittedly, those are a little more grounded than this. Like his violence is very grounded. This is very like excessive.
I think like Green Room and Blue Ruin specifically, because those are the two that I've seen. I think they do it. It makes more sense in their worlds.
Yeah, they're a little bit. I mean, not to say this world's like neon, but it's very. I mean, this is a neon world, but it's still gritty. You know, like you're still dealing with like the world of like a crime world and mob bosses, and it exists in a gritty world, but it's got this. But it's a gritty world with an LA sheen.
Well, part of the thing I loved about the world that it's in is that it's very much actually shot in real places. Like when Gosling's driving down the street, you can just see a Home Depot, or like when he's standing like in the doorway of the restaurant, you can see a Ross in the background, just shining in the neon blue, which I thought was interesting. And I like that it just feels like a grounded reality, but then like you have these these instances and these moments that feel so out of touch with reality that make it, like I said earlier, kind of fantasy-esque. And I do think the kind of the excess of violence works for it. I do think, like Taylor said, it is explosive, and that the fact that the movie in certain moments is so kind of meticulous with itself and is so restrained and kind of disciplined that when the violence really pops off, that it's kind of like this great release for the movie, and I think it works.
Yeah, the first like major explosive scene of violence is that hotel bathroom scene.
Yeah.
And that just like comes out of nowhere for you, just like, and I think that for me that's why it works. It's like you're just like you weren't expecting that, like, you know, there's like this, oh, someone's, you know, oh shit, like they're about to be like besieged here, like there's people waiting for this. You don't expect that you're about to see Christina Hendricks' fucking head explode.
Yeah, exactly.
And just a blood geyser of sorts. And then, you know, for Gosling to just straight stab a guy with a shower pole and see, it's just like, it is over the top and it's excessive.
I think also the way it's shot is, I keep thinking about Green Room and how like that violence comes, but there's no like, it's not shot specially. It just happens. And I think that's shocking for what it is, but isn't there kind of slow-mo? Like it slows things down a bit.
Yeah, both of those sequences I think have some, both of those two particular kills I just mentioned both have slow.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that kind of is like, huh.
You don't like the fetishization.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with them fetishizing it in general. Like I've seen that in other movies and it works. Just I think in this world it doesn't make sense with the way the rest of the movie is shot, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I guess that's kind of like the disconnect you feel between like the quieter aspects of the movie and the violence itself. Like I think that's kind of representative of that clash of tones that you feel.
Yeah, because I love the violence in Green Room. Like as long as I'm not in a happy place, it's cool.
Well, then how do you feel about just the regular action in this movie? Because there's like an incredible car chase in this movie too.
Oh, the car chases are awesome.
Yeah.
Vroom, vroom.
The opening sequence I think is incredible. The opening scene of Gosling just doing his fucking job, really. I just love the way that scene is shot. I love the tension of it. I love just seeing like the way he gets away from police officers and just the way he handles himself in situations where you can tell he's a little on edge, but you can tell he's also completely in control and he knows exactly what he's doing. And also that he just leaves those two fucking guys in the fucking parking garage.
I actually love that because I think the Gosling plays it perfectly in the sense of like in his eyes and in his boyish looks, he looks like he's inexperienced. So it keeps you on edge while it's happening, even though like especially later on, you know that he's capable and you know he knows what he's doing, but still there's something about like, it feels almost like my son is out there doing his job. And even though I know he's a professional NASCAR driver, he's still my son. And I don't think he can do it.
I don't think he can do it.
I don't think he can do it. He's my boy. And if I know anything...
My son, the driving murderer. My good boy.
I really do love the part of the scene where he's simultaneously listening to the police scanner and the game. Because at first, it seems like he's kind of shrugging off his responsibility. At least that's how it reads to me at the beginning. Then by the end of that chase scene, it's like, oh, that was part of the plan. Like he was trying to time it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like very, well, I think another thing which really what those driving sequences is like they're shot as meticulously as like he is driving, I guess. Not the best phrasing, but they're incredibly meticulously shot. Like, I feel like the thing that works so well is that Refn feels in complete control of these sequences. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what a thing throughout. It's like the direction of this movie, he's in total control.
Definitely.
Like everything about the direction on this film is so meticulously done. And that's just something about it that really works for me. So I just feel like what's up?
Are there only two of them?
Only two of what?
Two car scenes. The beginning one and the kind of pawn shop one.
I think they're like those are like the two set piece ones. I feel like. I think. Yes?
I think so.
I think those are like the two main set piece ones. Because then after those, it kind of becomes like a little bit more of like the violent combat of it.
But what Taylor was saying about Refn being completely in control of the movie, I mean, that's really the bulk of why the movie works so well, is the confidence that Refn is showing behind the camera, and like the confidence he feels in making this movie this way, making it this, auteur arty kind of stylish noir picture instead of just an outright action movie starring one of America's best boys. And the fact that he has the confidence and that the movie completely works for it is why I love it so much, because he has that kind of same confidence with the Neon Demon and Only God Forgives. It just doesn't come across the same way. Not in the same way that this movie works.
And again, I think maybe that has a little bit to do with the fact that he didn't write the script in this film.
Yeah.
So I think his direction in those films is still very precise.
Right.
I think if he's not reined in and with a kind of a script that can go wherever it wants to go, that confidence becomes sort of arrogance.
Yeah. Also, is the Neon Demon is the last movie he's done, right?
Yeah, he's doing an Amazon he has an Amazon TV series, Too Old to Die Young, I think. Is what it's called. I don't know when that is coming out though.
Okay.
What about that doc his wife did that he starred in?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I haven't. Yeah, that was during the making, I believe, of Only God Forgives.
Oh, okay. I thought it was during Drive. I do have one question. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Have y'all seen Lost River?
I've not seen
have.
Lost
The
River.
Ryan Gosling directed film?
You mean the Ryan Gosling, but Ryan Gosling directed, Refn inspired.
Yeah,
Heavily inspired.
it's that's what I remember about the movie, is that it felt, because I think I'd already seen Only God Forgives at that point, and it felt like he spent a little too much time with Refn.
I'm actually a Lost River defender. I've only seen it for one time.
I don't think it's terrible. Like, it's I love the colors and I love the style. I think it's better than Only God Forgives, but I feel like
It's a more enjoyable watch, yeah.
yeah. I don't know, I'm kind of interested in returning to it at some point, just to kind of, especially after Drive, to kind of see where it was.
What you said, do you feel like that movie just dropped off?
No, I was saying, like, I think it seems like, because I'm assuming he spent those two movies with Refn, I wonder how different it would have been if he had stopped. Like, if he had only hung out with him for Drive and then was like, oh, I want to make this movie. If it would have been a little more coherent. Or if it just, like, plot-wise, it would have had a little more meat to it. Because I think the problem with Lost River is that sometimes, and I had this problem with Only God Forgives in Neon Demon, that it wants to do a visual image, or it wants to work with some colors so bad that it's like, sure, I'll make the plot fit to that, rather than the other way around.
That kind of makes sense. I have not seen Lost River.
It is. So a lot of people don't like that movie. It's kind of a hated movie in circles. I know it got really bad. They kind of almost universally booed at Cannes.
I don't get that. That's ridiculous.
And then and it kind of got pretty unceremoniously dumped. After that, I think it was Warner Brothers funded it and they were releasing it, or maybe they funded it. I don't know. I know they were scheduled to release it, and then they ended up, after that really bad reception, they were trying to shop it off to other distributors to pick up, and that didn't happen. So they pretty much just dumped it as a day and date.
Damn.
I mean, admittedly, it's one of those movies that it's an art house movie, and I feel like there probably wasn't too much of a script there, really. I feel like it was more of a treatment and an idea.
Fucking leaving my boy Ryan out to dry.
I can't believe they did him dirty like that. Oscar winner? Has he won an Oscar?
Hold up. Ryan Gosling. He has been nominated for 2 Oscars. So he's not won one.
Oh, poor
No
boy.
wins. Just a nom for La La Land and nom for Half Nelson.
What?
For Half Nelson.
2 Best Acting nominations. Best Performance by an Actor in Half Nelson, and then in La La Land. 10 years apart.
What's Half Nelson?
It's a movie where he's a inner city high school teacher who has a drug addiction.
Okay.
That sounds fun.
Is he gonna win one for Old First Man?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't even see him getting nominated, honestly.
I don't really think. Yeah, I don't know how much that's gonna shine through in the award season. Really,
I think that's gonna get forgotten about pretty quickly. Actually, it's
in the movie Half Nelson, his character's name is Dan Dunn.
I see this. He looks like a a mix of Dane Cook and the guy who sells drugs at your high school.
Who maybe could be Dane
Admittedly, could just be Dane Cook.
Who could just be Dane Cook.
The last thing I wanted to know, and it's not actually related to Drive, what kind of love does Buzz Aldrin get in First Man? Y'all didn't mention anything about Buzz.
Well, he's kind of
Second man.
He's honestly
kind of an afterthought.
dumped into the. Well, yeah, he's sort of an afterthought of a character.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't until, like, you were getting to, like, near the end of the movie, and I was like, well, where the fuck has Buzz been?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hear, like, someone say his name, like, oh, that's Buzz Aldrin.
Do they explain how they agreed who got to be the first one off? Because do you realize, like, if it just came to sheer, like, oh, I'm by the door, so I'll be first, that it has made Neil the most famous person in history, and Buzz is just, like, second, not even second fiddle at this point. I feel like most people know his name because of Buzz Lightyear.
When that scene happened, I really
Wait, what? Did you say most people know Buzz Aldrin's name because of Buzz Lightyear?
Who's the most famous Buzz, you think? It's obviously Buzz Lightyear.
on the Wonder Years' very first album, they have a song called Buzz Aldrin, the poster boy for second place. And I just
It's a very long song title, a little unwieldy.
Wait, so does the movie not explain why Neil got to go first?
no, when that scene happens, Buzz
is peeing, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing, Neil?"
I mean, the movie's all pretty much focused on Neil Armstrong, and, like, Buzz Aldrin's kind of an afterthought, honestly. So I feel like
Buzz Aldrin's kind of an asshole in the movie, honestly.
he actually is. He's just kind of a dick.
He's kind of a
And,
dick.
like, I feel like, and I feel like, you know, Neil Armstrong's like the through line, kind of at the forefront of all this. So
Also, wasn't there a third person in that mission?
yeah, he had to stay aboard the ship to make sure that they'd get back safely.
What?
He didn't actually get to go. He didn't get to go to the moon.
They did him dirty like that.
Well, he was on the moon. He just didn't get to get off.
No, I thought he stayed on the. No,
Wait, what?
he stayed like in the ship, and then they launched the lander.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Buzz and
Yeah,
Neil.
yeah.
So he stayed up in the space. He never even went down to the moon at all.
I'd be so pissed off.
That's crazy.
I don't even know what his name
He
was.
was just sitting up there, like, damn, they down there on the moon, and I'm stuck up here.
Dang, but
Like,
you see what I mean?
Yeah, he's just like, oh man, if they die down there, this will be a lonely trip back home.
See,
my God.
no one remembers his name, but why do we remember Buzz? To infinity and beyond. That's why. All jokes aside,
This has been your TED talk of why Buzz Lightyear is the superior Buzz.
all jokes aside, I deeply apologize to great American hero, Mr. Buzz Aldrin.
Great American hero.
Full name, Mr. Buzzard Aldrin.
Mr. Buzzard Aldrin.
Mr. Buzz Lightyear Aldrin. That's where they got it from. Oh, the guy who stayed on, his name was Woody. That's what it was.
Oh.
There you go.
Is that wait really?
No, I don't know.
Oh, really?
Dumbass.
Was his name really Woody?
Hey, they didn't ever say his name in the movie.
They didn't even say his name in the movie.
No, he's not important.
Actually,
He didn't walk on the fucking moon.
Hold up, I actually gotta figure out his name.
God. While Taylor's doing that, is there any final thoughts that you guys have about the movie? Anything you want to make sure that is said before we close out?
Just a couple things. I like that.
His name was Mike. Mike
Forget about
Collins.
Mike, forget about him.
Mike the pilot. Neil Armstrong. Buzz Aldrin. Mike.
It was actually Mike the Woody Collins.
Neil Armstrong. Buzz Aldrin. Mike Collins. Not quite the same effects. He could not have walked on the moon.
There's nothing zazzy about it.
That's how they picked Neil Armstrong to go first. He's like, you got the best name. Oh, but Drive. The last two things I wanted to mention were that I like that Ryan Gosling's character does not have a name and that he's just called Driver. And I also just wanted to bring up that the elevator scene is perfect.
I was about to say, I really like that scene where he just fucking crushes a man's skull repeatedly.
Yes. I love the contrast. That's kind of like the contrast of the whole movie represented in one scene, because it takes this break to go into this beautiful romantic slow-mo kiss sequence, and all the lighting changes, and it's so romantic and nice and sweet. And then he fucking just turns around and stomps this man's head in until he doesn't have one anymore.
Yeah, it's like, it really is a good contrast in the scene. But what's also interesting to me about that specific scene is I feel like for a lot of people that is one of the most memorable parts of the movie, like that specific sequence. But it was actually like, and maybe this was the way I remember it in my head too, the actual like level of gore you see in that scene is a lot less than I remembered. But the sound design,
Yeah.
the fact that you actually hear the squishing and the crunching, and you only really see the impact in one key shot, which is admittedly a brutal shot, but still. So that was the thing, like, I definitely remember that as a more, like, directly brutal scene in my head. Yeah. I guess my other final comments, Crackle fucking sucks.
Oh my gosh, we didn't even get to talk about that. Get to 17,000 Facebook Marketplace ads for me.
What?
Dude, I saw I saw the same Red Lobster ad. Every ad break.
How many ad breaks were there?
There's one every like 30 minutes. No, not
Like
20.
Oh no.
15?
Like 10. Like 10, closer to 10. I feel like I got at least 10 ad breaks.
I think the placements are pretty good. Like when it happens, it's after like it lets a scene complete and gives you a small little break. But
Yeah.
you do with scene 1 of 7 ads every 10 minutes is a pain.
Yeah, you get like, it adds an extra like 15 to 20 minutes to your watch time.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Just watching the same fucking Red Lobster ad.
I fucking popped in that Blu-ray disc and watched it uninterrupted, except when I paused it to go get dinner out of the oven.
Well, in case you guys know, they've definitely got, was it your meatless chicken tenders?
Yeah, it was my meatless chicken nuggets.
Buy less meat.
They were good.
What was I saying? I forget.
You got to try the Beyond burgers, Trace. And the Beyond sausage. They're good.
And like Red Lobster's doing some like new like coconut shrimp or something. If you're curious party, they're doing something with their shrimp, some new shit.
Sounds pretty good. I need to go buy some homemade the cheddar biscuits from Red Lobster that you can make at home. I need to go buy some of those from the store.
The home mix, yeah, some good stuff.
God, those are so fucking good.
My final thought is Oscar Isaac's the unsung hero in this movie. He's very good.
His name's Standard.
Your name
I thought that was great, and I love Carey Mulligan's like joke. I love that little story. Where's the little X version? It's a fucking good clapback, but he still got it in, so he wins, I guess.
we were watching.
What's this kid's name?
Benicio?
Benicio.
Oh, Benicio, yeah.
We were watching the movie, and he said his name, and he said his name was Standard, and my girlfriend was like, his name is Standard. I just thought that was funny.
All in all, good flick. I enjoyed it.
At least his name wasn't Basic.
I want you to die.
Well, that's that, folks. That's how we're going to wrap up this little discussion of Drive here. Don't forget that next week we will be discussing ZATHURA, directed by Mr. Jean Favreau.
A space adventure.
The space adventure Jumanji ripoff.
Space Jumanji. Oh, damn it.
Beat you to it. As always, you could just see what I'm thinking about movies on Letterboxd and what I'm thinking about other things, which isn't very much, on Twitter, at your buddy John. And Taylor and Trace, what are you guys?
At Taylor Dvorsky.
At Trace Sever.
And then you can also follow the podcast at Obligatory Pod on Twitter as well, where Trace is maintaining that. So reach out to him that way too.
I'm doing a great job. We have 12 followers on Twitter right now.
Hey, give him more love. We got more listeners than that. If every person who listens,
Do you ever think about the fact that a quarter of our Twitter follow base is us? Wait, do you even follow our Twitter page, Jay? Do you even follow our Twitter page?
So yeah, that's the end of the show there. Again, apologies to Buzz Aldrin. And here you go with Charlie XCX's Vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Lavender Lamborghini, roll up in a blue bikini. Bitches on the beaches looking super cute and freaky. All my friends are princesses, we keep it whipped and creamy. Ice cream cubes on our tongues because we like to keep it freezy. Named a Lamborghini, get out on the right side. Should have stayed at home because my girl wanted to ride. Licking lips and tasting plush and feeling so alive. Wanna take it to the highway.
I also, speaking of which, we have Parm bites and bread twists. So the Parm bites are 16 piece, and the bread twists are 8 piece. They're the exact same. They're the exact same amount of dough. The exact same amount of dough goes into making the 16-piece Parm bites and the 8-piece bread twists. But the Parm bites are $3, and the bread twists are like $7.
What the fuck is up with your margins, man?
So
where's your pricing ladder?
So when we sell to people on the phone, we're supposed to sell the twists.
I really love that you just gave us some good insight into how we're all getting shafted.
I feel like this is why I edit things around Domino's. I mean, sorry, D's
Pizza. Papa
around
D's
Little
Pizza.
Caesars. Around Little Caesars.
Can you bleep out?
That's actually better. I would love every time he says the name just to bleep it. That would be so much better in its place.
I'll figure it out in post.